feelings. Now, are your kids good at talking about their feelings?
The one is a little better than the other. There are still times when we have to say, "Are you hungry? Are you, upset about something?" Or kind of have to identify those feelings for him. And yeah, it can sometimes get a little difficult to guess what's going on because it doesn't always show in his facial expressions. It sometimes comes out in actions and how he's acting with his brother. So
well, and that's we have bookmarks that we use at our office now to say to people that behavior is a form of communication. So when you're getting behavior, someone's trying to communicate with you, they just aren't able to do it in a way that comes across as appropriate. So you're right. And a lot of being able to talk about your feelings is modeled. And so this is an area that we've had parents struggle with and teachers struggle with, is being able to model your own feelings and how you feel about things so that children will take risks and get messy and share. And so it is about modeling and talking about your feelings, and that's a critical component, and teaching the feelings, that feelings have names the same way that the cupboard has a name or the door has a name. You have to we teach kids colors and we teach them their numbers, but we don't necessarily teach them the range of emotions that they can experience. This allows you to do that. And you can do it in lots of fun ways. And the nice thing about this, again, is that continuity, that they'll see the same feelings. And we talk about, you're not going to look exactly like this, but you're certainly going to get that, I know that's embarrassed or that's angry. And I'm always amazed at how many kids that are 4 and 5 get some of those feelings concepts that we just assume they don't have yet. It's that range of angry, sad, mad. And another way to do that, again, is to start to read stories. Because it's, I don't know about your guys, but my guys, if it's in a book or if it's in print, that means it's real, right? Not necessarily what your parents told you, but it's about what you did. Now I brought, and you guys get to keep this kit, so your kids will have these. One of the things we have is when you're starting Frisbees, that's right. You get one each. Here you go. When you start, one of the great ways to understand empathy is to start to really engage your kids in being aware that they think and feel differently than each other. And so often, I do this all the time, I'll say to the kids, we're going to sit for half an hour and we're going to read a book. Now, you will have the range of feelings and they have to find the feeling, but don't tell them to share it with you until each one of you have picked your feeling. Because what happens is you'll pick, I love to read, so I would pick excited. If I got a half an hour on my own to read a book, I'd be thrilled. But if I had a child who struggled with reading, they may pick frustrated. And what happens is, as soon as you have two kids looking at it, they'll say, "Oh my gosh, you're not excited about reading? You don't like to read?" And they start to become aware of how other people feel. And that's how you start to move into being empathetic. So you have to be able to acknowledge that my feelings are different than your feelings. So these are a great tool to be able to do that. The other place, so if I was to ask Richard, so Richard, we're going to go to grocery shopping. How are you going to feel?
There we go.
And what was the feeling?
A little bit frustrated, actually.
Okay, and see, for you it's frustrated, and so when you're doing something, this is a great tool to have your kids show you, okay, we're going to be going here, and how would that make you feel? Because it gives you an idea or an indicator of where your kids are at the beginning of starting something. So if you're going on a visit, or if you're going to church, or if you're going to grocery shopping, or if I told my boys we were going to the mall, that's what I would get. Okay, so there's nothing, unless it's about them going to the mall and buying them something, we're very frustrated and it's painful. So those are the kinds of things you can use. But the other place is, do either of your kids have get upset where they can't communicate, where they get so upset that they shut down?
Sometimes we get more sort of growling and angry sounds as opposed to necessarily a description or a verbal.
Okay, so that's a great way to use the feeling wheel, to be able to say, why don't we get the feeling wheel and show me? And that can start, and it just deflects them from that growling, surly kind of to, okay, I have a tangible thing I can do, but I still don't have to risk saying it. And sometimes it's, I really don't have a clue. I don't really know. But one of the things that this allows is for it to become a natural part of having a conversation, and that feelings are a natural part. And I can tell you as a counselor that if I went into a classroom and taught feelings and stood in front of the class 2 days later and said, and I said, all feelings are okay. If I stood up in front of a classroom and said to kids, are there any feelings we shouldn't have? 75 to 80% of the kids would raise their hand and say there were feelings they shouldn't have. And they are usually associated with behaviors that they see. So being angry is bad, being frustrated is bad. And we really talk about feelings are your body's way of letting you know you're experiencing something. That's all they are. So you fluctuate in a day with having multiple feelings. But kids need to know that being angry is okay. What you choose to do when you're angry is a different choice. Feeling jealous is okay. It might mean that you need to change something that you're doing, or if I'm frustrated with you, I might need to change something I'm doing. So really having that conversation and being able to do that. Another way to do it, because as a counselor, there's nothing worse than sitting down and having a conversation. So in the kit, we've given bingo, so you can play feelings bingo. And so then we do a variety, and they tell you this in the handbook too. If you get a row, then you have to tell us the time you felt each one of those. If you get a row, you have to show us with your body what you look like when you experience those feelings. So it's just a fun way to get people talking about their feelings in a non-threatening way. So now here's my question that I ask every parent. How good are you guys at talking about your feelings?
What are the options?
Richard's using the wheel.
He's using the wheel.
I usually try to be pretty clear, especially when I'm angry or frustrated about something. I usually try to identify it to the kids and say, look, right now, this is not great, and for whatever reason, and very clearly, whether it's a behavior related thing or whether it's I've had a long day or that sort of thing. And they do seem to respond to it really well. They do seem to be able to understand that, and it often helps to de-escalate some of the frustrating behaviors that can sort of build on to that. So
that's good, and that's what kids need to hear. They need to hear and realize that parents are real, and that you have bad days, and that it's okay to have those bad days, and then be able to acknowledge. So you might need some time out. You might need to have them change what they're doing. I need you to sit for 20 minutes playing Lego quietly and getting along while I have a cup of tea, so that they know that you have a plan in place to help you calm down so that you can move on with your day. And the other reality I say to parents all the time is, if and when, we're all human, if and when we make a poor choice because we're angry or frustrated, always going back and accepting responsibility for the choice you made and helping them to know that it's okay and that you move on and you can change and apologize and fix it, that you're not perfect either. And so what we don't want to give kids the message is that as a grown-up, we get to behave a totally different way than they do. Because what we end up doing is teaching our children that when you're old and frail and when we are young, there's different rules for you, and if you're bigger than you, then you get to do what you want, and that's not okay. So we want to make sure as grown-ups that we're walking our talk, and kids pick up on that. And so rather than trying to pretend that it's not what you're feeling, acknowledging it and saying, this is the case. They don't always need to know what it's all about, but being able to know that that's where it's at. So once we've done that, and there's tons of books, and I'm sure because you're readers, you have this. There's tons of books that talk about feelings. So, Today I Feel Silly is a great book, and When I'm Feeling Sad is a great, and they have all of those to be able to do that. And different ranges for, when you're 9 and 10, what you read about versus what you do when you're 6, those kinds of things.